welcome to another world-centric This week, we're celebrating Earth Day. And all week long, we've been talking to thought leaders across a wide variety of industries about how we can independently and collectively have a really beneficial impact on the planet. Today, I'm going to talk to Barika Poole, the Executive Director for Spouts of Water. WorldCentric donates 25% of our profits every year to organizations around the world working to address extreme poverty, and Spouts of Water is one of them. So let's get Barika in here. And Barika joined at the end of last year, so 2019. And while she is new to Spouts of Water, she's definitely not new to the industry. She's been in engineering for over 17 years. Barika, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah. How is life for you right now? You are in Uganda and it's early Friday morning.
Yes, 6 a.m. Life is good. We are in lockdown. We have been since about, I would say, like the 21st of March, and we have until May 5th. And so really we just, we're able to, sorry about the dogs, we're able to just move by foot. No public transportation, no private transportation, unless if you're an essential worker or you have, really means to do that. There's grocery stores are open, but other stores are not open. So, so it's pretty peaceful at this moment.
Yeah. But also very important given the circumstances. And I'd actually love to get into that a little bit later to talk about why it's really important, especially in East African countries. But why don't we start off by you telling us a little bit about what Spouts of Water does?
Okay, so Spouts of Water. So we distribute and manufacture ceramic water filters called the Purifier. And there are two versions, actually. There's one for households and one for schools and institutions and health centers. And so the one for households is 20 liters, and the one for institutions is 65 liters. And so these are the only locally manufactured ceramic water filters in Uganda. And they're made out of clay that is locally sourced. So it's black clay and yellow clay and sawdust. And so these filters remove 99.99% of bacteria from the water.
Wow. Wow. And you mentioned that it's all locally manufactured. Why is that important?
It's really important because one, we're sourcing materials locally, so we're providing income for other businesses. And then also we employ all of our staff as Ugandan in our factory.
Absolutely. And how does it contribute to just the cost of the filters, or also I think one of the benefits that we see as a funder is that if something breaks, it can be fixed. A lot of times we see what is known as like prescriptive aid or helicopter aid. It's something brought in from another country and it's not easily fixed. But that's not the case with Spouts, is it?
No. So if the ceramic pot breaks, then we have replacements. We kind of store about 3,000 pots in our factory a month.
Wow. Can you talk a little bit about the issue of access to clean water in East Africa?
Well, around the world, 2.1 billion people lack access to clean water. In Uganda, the population is about 43 million, and 24 million of those people lack access to clean water. Wow. So it's a big problem. It's over half of them. And, diarrheal diseases, waterborne diseases are the major cause of death in children under 5 here in Uganda.
Wow.
And so it's important to, we don't want kids to die because they don't have access to clean water. I mean, that's one of the things that it's really touched my heart and why I'm in this industry in the first place, because it's just ridiculous. That shouldn't be happening in the 21st century.
Yeah, I think you touched on two really important points. And one is that there are all of these illnesses that are leading to death that are very treatable and curable with something that we take really for granted here in the U.S. We kind of assume that everywhere we go, we will have access to not just running water, but clean water. And that's not the case for many, many people around the world.
Yeah, it's very true.
Yeah. How many people benefit from a single filter?
So for the household filter, the average Ugandan family is about 5 people, but there are households that are up to 10. The XL, which is a larger filter, we kind of rate, with their installations in schools, 50 kids per filter.
Wow, that's a huge impact for one filter.
Yeah. And usually in schools, we install, because the population in schools is probably about 300 kids. And so we install at least 6 filters in the school so we can cover everyone.
And I know that when you install in schools, you don't just install in the school, it has an impact on the community. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, we have a couple of distribution models. So one, we want to have a focus. So we have the focus at the school. So there's filters installed at the school. And then we also give training to both the students and the staff on how to use the filter. And then we bring in the parents of the students and give them a training on how to use the household filter. And then those parents also receive filters. And then attached to that, any other I guess I would say community centers, or especially health centers that are attached to the school, will also do installations there.
Wow.
So we want the students to have coverage everywhere that they go to have clean water.
Yes, because what is the point if you go to school and have clean water, but if you go home and don't have clean water, it negates
Correct.
that benefit. So it's really good to have that wide distribution. So we've been funding Spouts for several years now, and the main focus in our experience has been schools and refugee camps. And right now, you're not able to do installations in refugee camps because of coronavirus and how refugee camps are especially areas that we need to be careful and protect, right? But how in the past, why has that been important in Uganda?
Well, Uganda is one of the countries that houses a lot of refugee camps and almost the largest refugee camp in the world. And so those populations are vulnerable. And, we really want to make sure that we are reaching the vulnerable communities in all of Uganda, no matter where they are. So we focus on rural areas and the refugee camps. So we've been installing filters with you guys in Bidi, which is in the northwest, and then also in 2 refugee camps that are in the southwest. And so we also serve the local community where that refugee camp is as well, because lots of times, the local community sees all these refugee camps or refugee settlements get, donor funding and services, and then they're left with nothing. And so we make sure that we also service them as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for mentioning Bidi. It's one of the largest refugee camps in the world. And I think a lot of times, at least here in the U.S., we can think of refugee camps as something that are very temporary. But in Uganda, these are not a temporary things. These are something that have been there for years and years.
Yeah, so they're more settlements. So people have been living there for years and years and years. Yes. So it's not temporary.
Yeah. So since we are here in celebration of Earth Day, can you talk a little bit about the ecological benefits of the purifier?
Sure. So the purifier, it's a ceramic water filter, and so it's made from locally sourced materials, as I said before, from natural materials, and that's the ceramic filter. And then we have it in a container, and I can actually show you guys a little later. But each filter, we look at the carbon emissions and how much it offsets. And so each filter per year offsets 2.5 tons of carbon. And that also takes into account the emissions that is used to actually make the filter. And then also in terms of, and these are complicated calculations, but in terms of wood not used from boiling, so a lot of people in Uganda boil their water for disinfection. And so they either use wood or charcoal. And so the purifier eliminates the need to actually boil and use those resources. And so for wood not burned, it's 2 tons per year of wood not burned by using the purifier. So it's significant impact when you add it all together.
Absolutely. And that's significant, not just in terms of the environment and what it takes for carbon emissions, but also in terms of people's health, right?
Yes, yes, yes. So sometimes, when you're cooking outside or inside in an open flame, there's all the fumes, the charcoal emissions, and the whole family is ingesting those and inhaling those. And so when you have the purifier, you don't have that environmental health effects.
Yeah. Along those lines, could you talk a little bit about the indirect impacts? Like the direct impact is that people have access to clean water, but what does that result in as a ripple effect?
So the ripple effect of, one is health, right? It's a reduction in waterborne diseases, diarrheal diseases, mortality. Typhoid is also a waterborne disease. And so even in the treatment of these diseases, the economic impacts of switching from boiling to using the purifier, you spend more money on the fuel to boil than the cost of the purifier in a year. And then also really being able to, when people aren't sick, they can work, they can earn a living, kids can go to school more often. So it's an educational benefit. Even when kids are hydrated, they're not dehydrated, they're able to learn better. They have bigger attention span when they're in school.
Wow. What do you think are other things that are important for us here in the West to understand?
Really that, water is a human right, and that we should really care about others and really be attuned to what others are going through. This has been it's a UN Sustainable Development Goal number 6. It was a Millennial Development Goal by 2015. We wanted everybody to have access to clean water, and it still hasn't happened. And so just, knowing that, in the West, very, very fortunate that you don't necessarily have to worry about your water. There are some issues, obviously, but that, people around the world are spending hours upon hours either walking to collect water, and it may not be from a clean source, and then also preparing water to be able to just drink. So, be an advocate and support these causes.
Absolutely. You just moved to Uganda, but back to East Africa. You've lived there before. What has the experience been for you as the new executive director of Spouts of Water?
It's been good so far. I spent just about 2 months in Rwanda before, and that's the only time that I've lived in East Africa previously. And that was at the end, fall of last year. But moving to Uganda, it's a completely different experience than being in Rwanda. And so it has its different challenges. Kampala is a bigger city. Transportation is different. But being the executive director of Spouts has been a fulfilling experience so far. So I just got here at the end of January. So we had a little bit of time to kind of, do some things in Q1, and then we had our shutdown. But, in thinking about coronavirus, we were saying we are a water treatment, organization, and what can we do during this time to make sure that people have access to clean water, because it's very important to help prevent the spread of disease. And so we are working with you guys and also the Ministry of Health in order to do some installations for our communities so that they have access to clean water. And then we are both I'm the executive director of the nonprofit portion of Spouts, and then there's also a for-profit portion. And they're looking to manufacture hand washing stations as well and add that to the product line. Because, the number one thing that people say to prevent the disease is to wash your hands. And really it's to wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds, sorry. And if you don't have clean water and if you don't have hot water, then that presents a challenge of really killing the disease. And so we want to make sure that people have clean water to actually do that. And then also having clean water just to be healthy. So when you're drinking unclean water, your body's not healthy and you're already sick and you're more susceptible to contracting, to having a compromised immune system. And so we really want to make sure that people have access to clean water.
Yeah, I think that goes back to our conversation earlier about just how lucky we are to assume that we can wash our hands for 20 seconds with running water. It's
Yeah.
it's a really big privilege, and even though it kind of for us seems like an easy thing to do, it's not so easy around the world.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how can people support Spouts and your work in Uganda?
People can support in several ways. So one, you can donate. If you go to spouts.org and you click in the top right-hand corner, there's a donate button there. And, one filter, a household filter is $25. So that would help for one family. And then the large and XL filter is $80. Those are the ones that we install in health centers and schools. The other thing is that we do have a couple of volunteer opportunities. So if you email ngo@spouts.org, we can give you information about that so you can come and support us. Those are basic ways. Anything else, if you want to do a fundraiser, we always love support. Advocacy is always, a great thing. Follow us on our social media pages. So we're Spouts of Water on Twitter, on Facebook, and Instagram.
I think one of the things that World Centric has always been really passionate about is supporting grassroots efforts. We feel like those are the organizations closest to the ground, most dedicated to their communities. And that's one thing that we love about Spouts of Water. Like, you are a small but very mighty team, and water has such a huge influence over people and our health, our lives, and the environment. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing. And like you said, I encourage people to go on and donate. Even just a small amount of money, like you said, can have a huge ripple effect.
Yes, it can. And thank you so much for your support over the years as well.
Oh, it's our pleasure. So thank you so much. I know it's early in the morning for you there in Uganda. I hope you have a great rest of your day and a good weekend. And I hope that you stay safe.
Thank you too. You as well. Thanks, Janae.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
All right. Thank you all for joining us for another Eco Social. I'll be back tomorrow talking with our nonprofit partner, Trees, Water, People. Again, that's spoutsofwater.org if you want to go follow and support and also provide clean water for people who need it. I hope you have a good evening, and thanks for watching.